I've been working security at Meridian Heights for 3 years now, and let me tell you, nothing ever happens here. This 40-story luxury residential tower in downtown Chicago attracts the kind of people who pay extra for privacy and silence. Doctors, lawyers, investment bankers, folks who can afford the $8,000 monthly rent and expect their secrets to stay buried behind marble facades and bulletproof glass. My name is Tyler, and I'm what they call a security coordinator, though really I'm just a guy with a GED who watches monitors all night and makes sure drunk residents don't fall asleep in the lobby. The pay is decente, $22 an hour plus benefits, and it beats my last job at the warehouse where my back was shot by 30. Tonight started like any other. I clocked in at 11 p.m., relieving Rodriguez, who always smells like cigarettes and cheap cologne. The lobby was empty except for the soft jazz playing through hidden speakers and the gentle hum of the air conditioning system. 43 monitors lined the security desk, each showing different angles of hallways, elevators, the parking garage, and the rooftop garden that nobody ever uses. I settled into my chair with a thermos of coffee and a turkey sandwich my wife Lisa packed for me. She always writes little notes on the napkin. Tonight said, "Love you, stay safe," in her careful handwriting. We've been married 8 years and she still worries about me working alone in this glass tower filled with strangers. The first few hours passed without incident. Mrs. Patterson from 24C came home around midnight, struggling slightly with her keycard after what was clearly a wine-heavy dinner with her book club. I watched her navigate the marble lobby in her designer heels, each step echoing through the empty space. She's in her 60s, recently divorced, and always nods politely when she sees me. Nice lady. Then there was the usual parade of late arrivals. A young couple from the 20th floor, whispering and giggling as they waited for the elevator. The investment banker from 31A, still in his suit despite the late hour, phone pressed to his ear as he discussed what sounded like Asian market futures. Normal stuff. At 1:10 a.m., I was reviewing the incident report log when monitor 7 flickered. Just for a second, a brief digital hiccup that made the screen go black before the image returned. I'd seen this before. The building's security system was installed 5 years ago, and sometimes the cameras acted up, especially during humid summer nights like this one. But when the image stabilized, something was different. Monitor 7 covered the 32nd floor hallway, a stretch of burgundy carpet and cream-colored walls punctuated by 6 apartment doors. Usually it was empty at this hour. But now I could see a woman standing in front of apartment 32D. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The hallway lighting was dim, just the emergency exit signs and a few recessed ceiling lights that created pools of amber illumination. The woman was tall, maybe 5'8", with dark hair that fell past her shoulders. She wore a black dress that seemed expensive, the kind that probably cost more than my monthly salary. What struck me as odd wasn't just her presence. Residents had every right to be in their own hallways, but her behavior. She wasn't fumbling for keys or checking her phone like most people do when they arrive home late. She was just standing there, perfectly still, facing the door of 32D. I checked the resident directory on my computer. Apartment 32D belonged to Benjamin Walsh, a 34-year-old software consultant who'd lived in the building for 2 years. Quiet guy, always polite when he passed the security desk. Paid his rent on time, never complained about noise or maintenance issues. The kind of tenant building management loves. I'd seen Benjamin's girlfriend before, a petite blonde named Ashley who worked as a marketing coordinator downtown. They seemed happy together, always holding hands in the elevator, sharing quiet laughs. But the woman in the hallway wasn't Ashley. As I watched, the woman reached into a small purse and withdrew what looked like a keycard. My chest tightened. How did she have access to Benjamin's apartment? The timestamp on the monitor read 1:12 a.m. exactly when she swiped the card. The lock mechanism clicked audibly through the hallway microphone, a soft electronic beep that I'd heard thousands of times before. The door opened and she stepped inside without hesitation, like she'd done this many times before. The door closed behind her with a quiet thud that seemed to echo through my headphones. I stared at the empty hallway, my coffee growing cold in my hands. In 3 years of working here, I'd never seen anything like this. Sure, residents had visitors, overnight guests, family members with spare keys. But something about this felt wrong. The woman's posture, her confidence, the way she moved through the darkness, it all suggested secrets. I pulled up Benjamin's file on the computer. According to his lease application, he lived alone. No roommates listed. No additional keycard holders registered with building management. The emergency contact was his mother in Milwaukee, and his lease specified that any additional residents needed to be approved through the management office. My training manual was clear about situations like this. Unauthorized access to residential units was a serious security breach. I was supposed to call the police immediately and then contact the building manager. But something held me back. What if I was wrong? What if this woman was a family member I'd never seen before? What if Benjamin had requested an additional keycard and the paperwork was just slow to reach my desk? I'd hate to cause a scene over nothing, especially at this hour. The residents of Meridian Heights valued their privacy above all else, and false alarms could cost me my job. I decided to wait and watch. If the woman left within a reasonable time, say, an hour or two, I'd log it as a visitor and move on. But if she stayed until morning or if anything else seemed suspicious, I'd have to take action. The next 40 minutes crawled by like hours. I found myself checking monitor 7 every few seconds, but the hallway remained empty. No sounds of disturbance came through the building's intercom system. No emergency calls from other residents. Everything appeared normal, except for the knot of anxiety growing in my stomach. At 1:52 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "Can't sleep. Hope your night is quiet. Love you." I started to type back, "All quiet here," but deleted it. For the first time in 3 years, that wasn't entirely true. Instead, I wrote, "Love you too. See you in the morning." I was reaching for my sandwich when movement on monitor 7 caught my eye. The woman was leaving apartment 32D, but she wasn't alone. Benjamin Walsh walked with her to the elevator, his arm around her waist in a gesture that looked intimate, familiar. He was dressed casually, jeans and a t-shirt, like someone who'd been home for hours. They stood close together while waiting for the elevator, speaking in low voices I couldn't hear through the hallway microphone. When the elevator arrived, Benjamin kissed her forehead gently before she stepped inside. He watched the doors close, then walked back to his apartment with the slow, satisfied stride of a man with secrets. I sat back in my chair, pieces of a puzzle starting to form in my mind. This wasn't a break-in or unauthorized access. This was an affair. Benjamin Walsh, who everyone believed was in a committed relationship with Ashley, was seeing someone else. Someone who had her own key to his apartment and visited him in the early hours of the morning when his girlfriend wouldn't be around. The elevator descended through the building, and I tracked the woman's movement through multiple cameras. She walked through the lobby with confident steps, her heels clicking against the marble floor. In the brighter lighting, I could see her face more clearly. She was beautiful, probably in her early 30s, with the kind of poise that suggested education and money. She pushed through the glass doors into the Chicago night without looking back. I should have let it go. I should have logged the incident as authorized visitor resident escort and moved on with my shift. But something about the scene I'd witnessed bothered me. Maybe it was the way Benjamin had looked around nervously before kissing her goodbye, or the careful way she'd avoided the main lobby cameras on her way out. Or maybe it was the fact that 3 days earlier, I'd seen Ashley leaving his apartment with a small overnight bag, crying softly as she waited for her Uber. At the time, I'd assumed it was just a normal relationship rough patch. Now I wondered if she'd discovered something she wasn't supposed to know. The rest of my shift passed uneventfully, but my mind kept returning to that moment at 1:12 a.m. when the camera blipped and revealed a secret. By the time Rodriguez arrived to relieve me at 7 a.m., I'd made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out who that woman was and what she was doing in Benjamin Walsh's apartment. Not because it was my job technically, it wasn't, but because something about the whole situation felt dangerous. Like watching a train heading toward a collapsed bridge, knowing that someone needed to warn the passengers before it was too late. I just didn't know yet that I was one of those passengers. The problem with working nights is that your sleep schedule turns your life upside down. I got home to our small 2-bedroom house in Elmwood Park around 8 a.m., but Lisa had already left for her job at the dental office where she works as a hygienist. The house felt empty and too quiet, filled with the kind of silence that makes your thoughts echo louder than they should. I showered and tried to sleep, but my mind kept replaying those 42 minutes between 1:12 and 1:52 a.m. The way the woman had stood so still in the hallway. The casual intimacy between her and Benjamin. The tears in Ashley's eyes 3 days earlier. By noon I gave up on sleep and made coffee instead. Lisa wouldn't be home until 6, which gave me time to do something I probably shouldn't do: a little investigating. I started with social media, searching for Benjamin Walsh on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. His profiles were surprisingly private for someone his age, but I found enough to paint a picture. Software consultant, graduated from Northwestern University, originally from Wisconsin. His relationship status was listed as in a relationship with Ashley Morrison, and their photos together looked genuinely happy: beach vacations, dinner dates, couples hiking trips. Ashley's profiles were more open. Marketing coordinator at a downtown firm, 28 years old, shared an apartment with 2 roommates before she started spending most nights at Benjamin's place. Her recent posts showed a troubling pattern: fewer photos with Benjamin over the past month, more pictures with her girlfriends, and several inspirational quotes about trusting your instincts and knowing your worth. The most recent post, from 2 days ago, was a photo of her morning coffee with the caption, "Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, but learning what you should have never held on to in the first place." 34 people had liked it, and her friends had left supportive comments like, "You deserve better," and "His lost girl." I was getting somewhere, but I needed more information about the mystery woman. The building's security system kept visitor logs, but they only recorded people who checked in at the front desk or were announced by residents. Someone with their own keycard wouldn't appear in those records. That's when I remembered the parking garage cameras. Meridian Heights had a 3-level underground garage with entrances on both Well Street and LaSalle Street. If the woman drove here, her car would be on the surveillance footage. I pulled up the parking garage feeds from the previous night and started scanning backward from 2 a.m. The timestamp on each camera helped me track vehicles entering and leaving. Most of the late-night traffic was residents returning from dinners or nights-out, cars I recognized from regular viewing. At 12:47 a.m., a silver BMW sedan entered through the LaSalle Street entrance. The driver was alone, and while the image quality wasn't perfect, it looked like the same woman I'd seen in Benjamin's hallway. She parked on level B2 in a visitor space near the elevator bank. I zoomed in on the license plate, Illinois tags starting with the letters DN. The full number was visible, but I couldn't exactly run a plate check from my living room. That required access to police databases or DMV records that were way above my pay grade. But I did have one resource that might help. My brother-in-law Danny works as a mechanic at a shop on the north side, and he has a friend who runs vehicle history reports for used car dealers. It was a long shot, but maybe he could help me identify the BMW's owner. I called Danny around 2 p.m., catching him during his lunch break. "Tyler? Everything okay? You never call during the day." "Yeah, I'm fine. Just need a small favor. You still know that guy who can look up car registrations?" Danny paused. "You mean Rico?" "Yeah, I know him." "What? Someone hit your car?" "Nothing like that. Just trying to identify someone who might have information about..." "Look, it's complicated. Can you ask if he'd run a plate for me?" "This sounds sketchy, man. What's really going on?" I'd prepared for this question. There was an incident at work. Nothing major, but building management asked me to follow up on it quietly. You know how these rich people are about privacy. It wasn't exactly a lie. There had been an incident and rich people did value privacy. I just wasn't mentioning that building management had no idea I was investigating anything. "All right, I'll call Rico. But you owe me dinner next time Lisa makes her lasagna." "Deal." While waiting for Danny to get back to me, I decided to observe Benjamin's routine more closely. I knew from 3 years of night shifts that most residents followed predictable patterns. If Benjamin was having an affair, there would be signs, changes in his schedule, nervous behavior, maybe even preparations for his girlfriend's discovery of the truth. I also realized I should talk to Rodriguez, the day security guard. He worked the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift and might have noticed things I'd missed. But I'd have to be careful about how I approached it. Rodriguez was a good guy, but he also followed protocol to the letter. If he thought I was conducting unauthorized surveillance of residents, he'd report it to building management immediately. Around 4 p.m. Danny called back. "Okay, I got your information, but Rico says you didn't hear this from him. The BMW is registered to Natalie Pierce, 29 years old, address in Lincoln Park. Clean record, no accidents or tickets in the past 3 years." I wrote down the name and felt a mixture of satisfaction and dread. Natalie Pierce. Now the mystery woman had an identity, which somehow made everything more real and more complicated. "Thanks, Danny. I owe you." "Yeah, you do. And Tyler? Whatever this is about, be careful. You're one of the good guys, and good guys sometimes get in trouble for trying to do the right thing." After hanging up, I spent the rest of the afternoon researching Natalie Pierce. She was easier to find online than Benjamin. Her Instagram account was public, showing a lifestyle that screamed money and sophistication. Photos from art gallery openings, wine tastings in Napa Valley, weekend trips to New York City. She worked as an interior designer, ran her own firm called Pierce and Associates, and based on her client testimonials, catered to exactly the kind of wealthy professionals who lived at Meridian Heights. More importantly, she was married. Her husband was Dr. Richard Pierce, a cardiologist at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Their wedding photos from 2 years ago showed a lavish ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden, with a guest list that probably cost more than my annual salary. The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture I didn't like. Natalie Pierce wasn't just having an affair with Benjamin Walsh, she was cheating on her surgeon husband while Benjamin was cheating on his girlfriend. This wasn't a simple case of relationship drama, it was a web of deception that could destroy multiple lives. I found myself thinking about Ashley's tearful departure 3 days earlier. Did she know about Natalie, or had she simply sensed that something was wrong? And what about Dr. Pierce? Was he working late surgeries while his wife snuck out to visit her lover? Lisa came home around 6:30, bringing Thai takeout and stories from her day at the dental office. I tried to act normal, asking about her patients and laughing at her jokes about Dr. Peterson's terrible taste in music. But my mind kept drifting to the security footage and the secrets I'd uncovered. "You're quiet tonight," she said as we cleaned up after dinner. "Rough shift. Just tired. The new coffee machine at work is broken, so I was dragging all night." Another lie. The lies were getting easier, which worried me. "Why don't you go to bed early? I'll handle the dishes." I kissed her forehead, a gesture that reminded me uncomfortably of Benjamin and Natalie in the hallway, and headed upstairs. But instead of sleeping, I lay in bed thinking about what I'd learned and what I was going to do with the information. By the time I left for work at 10:30 p.m., I'd made another decision that would pull me deeper into a situation I didn't fully understand. I was going to confront Benjamin Walsh. Not immediately and not directly. But I needed to know more about his relationship with Natalie Pierce and what kind of danger his secrets might create. Because in my experience, secrets this big don't stay hidden forever. And when they explode, innocent people get hurt. I just hoped I wasn't about to become one of them. The next night at work felt different. Every time I looked at monitor 7, I remembered Natalie Pierce standing in that hallway, keycard in hand. Every time Benjamin Walsh appeared on the lobby cameras, I wondered what he was thinking behind his polite nods and routine greetings. Around 10 p.m. I got my chance. Benjamin came down to the lobby carrying a small garbage bag, unusual, since the building had a trash chute on every floor. He walked to the front desk where I was stationed, and I could see something nervous in his expression. "Evening, Tyler. Quick question, did anyone ask about me today? Maybe someone who didn't know my apartment number?" The question hit me like cold water. He was worried about something or someone. "No, sir. Everything's been quiet. Is there something I should know about?" Benjamin shifted the garbage bag to his other hand. Up close, I could see he looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and the slightly rumpled appearance of someone under stress. "Just, if anyone comes looking for me, especially if they seem upset or angry, could you call up before sending them to my floor? I'm dealing with some personal issues right now." This was my opening. "Of course, Mr. Walsh. Is everything all right? You seem a little on edge lately." He laughed, but it didn't sound genuine. "Just work stress. Big project deadline coming up. You know how it is." I did know how it was, but work stress doesn't usually make you worry about angry visitors or carry garbage down 32 floors. Work stress doesn't make you ask the security guard to screen your visitors more carefully. "If you don't mind me saying, sir, in 3 years of working here, I've never had to deal with any problems involving you. If someone's bothering you, maybe building management should know about it." Benjamin's face went pale. No need for that. It's really nothing serious. Just want to be cautious." He walked toward the elevators, then stopped and turned back. "Tyler, you've always been professional and discreet. I appreciate that. Sometimes people's personal lives get complicated, and it's good to know the building staff respects privacy." "Absolutely, sir. We all have things we'd rather keep private." Something in my tone must have registered with him, because he studied my face for a moment before nodding and heading to the elevator. As the doors closed, I wondered if I'd been too subtle or not subtle enough. The next 2 hours passed slowly. I kept thinking about Benjamin's request and what it might mean. Was he expecting Ashley to show up? Or Dr. Richard Pierce? Maybe Natalie had told her husband about the affair, or maybe Ashley had figured out what was happening and planned to confront him. At 12:30 a.m., my questions were partially answered. Ashley Morrison entered the lobby, but she looked nothing like the crying woman I'd seen leaving 3 days earlier. Tonight, she was composed, determined, and carrying a cardboard box that looked heavy. She walked straight to the security desk without hesitation. "Hi, Tyler. I need to go up to Benjamin's apartment, but I don't want to call first. He's expecting me, but he might try to avoid this conversation if he knows I'm coming." I was caught between building policy and human drama. Technically, I was supposed to announce all visitors, but Ashley had been here dozens of times over the past year. She wasn't exactly a stranger. Is everything okay, Miss Morrison? She set the box on the desk and I could see it contained personal items, books, a coffee mug, some jewelry. I'm returning his things and picking up mine. We broke up, but he keeps trying to talk it through, instead of accepting that it's over. This was the moment when I could have stayed neutral, followed protocol, and let the drama play out without my involvement. Instead, I made a choice that would complicate everything. Miss Morrison, can I ask you something personal? And please know that I'm only asking because I care about resident safety. She looked surprised but nodded. Do you know if Benjamin has been seeing anyone else? I ask because if there are multiple people involved in this situation, things could get complicated from a security standpoint. Ashley's composed facade cracked slightly. You know about her, don't you? I've seen some things that raised questions. I wasn't sure if you knew. I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. Cost me $2,000 I couldn't afford, but I needed proof. She opened her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Photos, hotel receipts, even credit card statements showing dinner charges for two when he told me he was working late. She handed me one of the photos. It showed Benjamin and Natalie Pierce having dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown, holding hands across the table like lovers. The timestamp indicated it was taken just 5 days earlier. Her name is Natalie Pierce. She's married to a heart surgeon and owns an interior design company. Apparently, Benjamin hired her to redecorate his apartment 6 months ago, and things progressed from there. I handed the photo back feeling sick. Does her husband know? I don't think so. But he's going to. Ashley's voice was steady, but I could see anger burning in her eyes. I'm going upstairs to get my things and then I'm going to Dr. Pierce's office tomorrow morning. He deserves to know what his wife is doing. This was spiraling into something much bigger than I'd anticipated. 2 relationships were about to explode, careers could be destroyed, and I was sitting in the middle of it with knowledge I probably shouldn't have. Miss Morrison, I understand you're angry and you have every right to be. But maybe you should think about this for a day or two before making any irreversible decisions. She shook her head. I've been thinking about it for 3 weeks, Tyler. Do you know what it's like to live with someone who lies to your face every single day? To pretend you believe his excuses while you're dying inside. I thought about the small lies I'd been telling Lisa about my investigation, and felt a stab of guilt. I can imagine it's terrible. He gave her a key to his apartment. A key, Tyler. That's not just an affair, that's a relationship. While I was planning our future, he was building one with someone else. I wanted to tell her about the late-night visits I'd witnessed, but that would reveal how much unauthorized surveillance I'd been conducting. Instead, I made another decision that would deepen my involvement. If you're determined to go through with this, maybe I can help make sure it's done safely. These kinds of confrontations can get unpredictable. Ashley looked at me with surprise and something that might have been gratitude. You do that? I've been working security for a long time. I've seen how these situations can escalate, especially when there are multiple people involved and a lot of money at stake. Dr. Pierce is a surgeon, he probably has a lot to lose if this becomes public. We spent the next 20 minutes developing a plan. Ashley would go upstairs, collect her belongings, and have her final conversation with Benjamin. If things went well, she'd leave quietly and handle the Dr. Pierce situation on her own timeline. If things went badly, if Benjamin became aggressive or tried to prevent her from leaving, she would call down to the security desk and I would intervene. But Tyler, she said as we finalized the details, I need you to promise me something. If anything happens to me, if I disappear or have an accident or anything suspicious, you need to make sure people know about Benjamin and Natalie. You need to make sure Dr. Pierce finds out the truth. The request chilled me. Ashley, do you really think you're in danger? I don't know. But people do crazy things when they're about to lose everything. Benjamin stands to lose his job if this affair becomes public. His company has strict policies about personal conduct. Natalie could lose her business if her wealthy clients find out she's been cheating on her husband. And Dr. Pierce, well, surgeons aren't known for their emotional stability. She picked up the cardboard box and headed toward the elevators. Give me an hour. If you don't hear from me by 1:45, call the police. As the elevator doors closed, I realized I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I was no longer just a security guard who'd witnessed something suspicious. I was now an active participant in the destruction of multiple lives, and I had no idea how any of this would end. At 1:44 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. It's done. He admitted everything. I'm leaving now. But when I checked the monitors, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Ashley was indeed leaving Benjamin's apartment, but she wasn't alone. Benjamin was with her, and he looked agitated, gesturing emphatically as they walked toward the elevator. More importantly, the elevator they were waiting for was going down to the parking garage, not the lobby. I grabbed my radio and called building maintenance. "This is Tyler in security. I need someone to check the parking garage cameras immediately. We might have a situation developing." As I waited for a response, I watched Benjamin and Ashley disappear into the elevator, and I knew that whatever happened next would change all of our lives forever. The maintenance radio crackled to life. "Tyler, this is Rodriguez covering the overnight maintenance shift. What do you need?" I'd forgotten that Rodriguez sometimes picked up extra hours doing building maintenance when they were short-staffed. His presence complicated things. He was strictly by the book and wouldn't appreciate my unauthorized involvement in resident affairs. "Just need eyes on the parking garage. Possible dispute between residents that might need intervention." "Copy that. Checking cameras now." I watched Monitor 7 as the elevator descended, my heart pounding with each floor. Benjamin and Ashley were standing on opposite sides of the elevator car, no longer looking like people having a rational conversation. Benjamin kept running his hands through his hair, a stressed gesture I'd noticed him doing more frequently over the past few days. Rodriguez's voice came through the radio again. "Tyler, I've got them on parking level B2. The male resident appears agitated. The female is walking toward a blue Honda Civic and he's following her. This doesn't look good." I could see it too on the parking garage monitors. Ashley was walking quickly toward her car, the cardboard box clutched against her chest. Benjamin was keeping pace beside her, clearly trying to continue their conversation. But Ashley's body language screamed that she wanted to end the interaction. Then Benjamin grabbed her arm. "Rodriguez, call 911 now. We have a physical altercation in the parking garage." I abandoned the security desk and ran toward the elevator bank, my radio clipped to my belt and my master keycard in my hand. 3 years of quiet night shifts hadn't prepared me for this moment, but my instincts kicked in. Someone was in danger and it was my job to help. The elevator seemed to take forever to reach the parking garage. When the doors opened, I could hear voices echoing off the concrete walls, Benjamin's voice loud and desperate, Ashley's voice sharp with fear and anger. "You can't do this, Ashley. You'll destroy everything, my career, her marriage, her business. Think about what you're doing." "I'm thinking, Benjamin. I'm thinking about all the lies you told me. I'm thinking about the nights I worried when you didn't come home. I'm thinking about the future I planned that was built on nothing but deception." I rounded the corner between two parked cars and saw them near Ashley's Honda. Benjamin still had hold of her arm, not violently, but firmly enough that she couldn't easily pull away. The cardboard box lay on the ground nearby, its contents scattered across the concrete. "Let her go, Mr. Walsh." Both of them turned toward me, startled. Benjamin's face went through several emotions: surprise, embarrassment, calculation, and finally resignation. "Tyler, this is a private matter. You don't need to be involved." "Sir, I need you to step away from Miss Morrison. Now." Benjamin released Ashley's arm, but he didn't step back. "You don't understand the situation. Ashley is about to make a terrible mistake that will hurt innocent people. I'm trying to protect everyone involved." Ashley rubbed her arm where Benjamin had grabbed her. "Innocent people? Your girlfriend who trusted you? My heart that you broke? Natalie's husband who has no idea his wife is cheating? Which innocent people are you protecting, Benjamin?" The sound of sirens echoed through the parking garage. Rodriguez had followed through on the 911 call, and Chicago PD would be here within minutes. Benjamin seemed to realize this too, because his demeanor shifted from desperate to angry. "You have no idea what you've done, Ashley. Natalie isn't just some random affair. She's connected to people who don't like their business becoming public. Her husband isn't just a surgeon, he's involved in medical research that's worth millions of dollars. There are confidentiality agreements, non-disclosure clauses, and contracts that could be voided if this scandal becomes public." This was information I hadn't found in my online research. Dr. Richard Pierce wasn't just a heart surgeon. He was apparently involved in some kind of medical research with significant financial implications. Ashley seemed shaken by this revelation, but she didn't back down. "That's not my problem, Benjamin. I didn't sign any confidentiality agreements. I didn't agree to keep your secrets. But you could disappear, Ashley. People with that much money at stake have ways of making problems go away. You think I'm worried about my software consulting job? I'm worried about your safety." The elevator dinged and Rodriguez emerged with 2 Chicago police officers. The parking garage suddenly felt crowded and official, transforming what had been a private drama into a public incident. Officer Martinez, a woman in her 40s who looked like she'd seen every kind of domestic dispute imaginable, took control of the situation immediately. Everyone step apart and keep your hands visible. Security officer, give me a brief rundown of what happened. I explained what I'd witnessed: the argument, the physical contact, Ashley's apparent desire to leave, and Benjamin's attempt to prevent her departure. I tried to stick to facts and avoid mentioning my deeper knowledge of the affair or my investigation into Natalie Pierce. Officer Martinez separated Benjamin and Ashley, taking their statements individually, while her partner, Officer Johnson, talked to me and Rodriguez about building security protocols and what we'd observed. Has this been an ongoing problem? Officer Johnson asked. Previous complaints, noise disturbances, anything like that? No, sir. This is the first incident I'm aware of involving these residents. It was technically true, but it felt like another lie in a growing collection of half-truths and omissions. After 20 minutes of statements and paperwork, Officer Martinez returned with her assessment. Mr. Walsh, Miss Morrison has asked you to stay away from her. She's within her rights to end this relationship and collect her personal belongings. If you continue to contact her or attempt to prevent her from leaving, you'll be charged with harassment or unlawful restraint. Benjamin nodded, but I could see frustration and fear in his eyes. Officer, I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to protect her from making a decision she might regret. That's her decision to make, sir. Not yours. Ashley gathered her scattered belongings back into the cardboard box, accepting help from Rodriguez, who seemed uncomfortable with the whole situation. As she loaded the box into her car, she caught my eye. Thank you, Tyler. For everything. After Ashley drove away and the police officers left, Benjamin and I rode the elevator back up to the lobby in uncomfortable silence. As the doors opened, he turned to me. Tyler, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. How much do you know about my personal situation? This was the moment when I could have lied, claimed ignorance, and tried to return to my role as a neutral observer. Instead, I decided that the truth was already too complicated for more deception. I know about Natalie Pierce. I know she has a key to your apartment and visits you late at night. I know she's married to Dr. Richard Pierce, and I know Ashley hired a private investigator to document your affair. Benjamin closed his eyes and leaned against the elevator wall. Jesus, how long have you known? Since the night I saw her on the security cameras. The night the camera blipped at 1:12 a.m. And what are you planning to do with that information? It was a fair question and one I'd been wrestling with for days. Nothing, as long as no one gets hurt. But Benjamin, if what you said about Natalie's husband is true about the research money and making problems disappear, then Ashley might be in real danger. Benjamin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Dr. Richard Pierce is the principal investigator on a clinical trial for a new cardiac device. The trial is worth $40 million to his research institute, and it's funded by a pharmaceutical company that has very strict morality clauses in their contracts. If Pierce's personal life becomes a scandal, it could void the entire agreement. And you think he'd hurt Ashley to protect that money? I think $40 million makes people do things they never thought they were capable of. And I think Natalie underestimated how far her husband would go to protect his reputation and his research. The elevator doors had long since closed, but we remained standing there in the quiet lobby, surrounded by the soft jazz and the gentle hum of late-night building systems. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Benjamin, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is Ashley in immediate danger? He ran his hands through his hair again, that nervous gesture that had become so familiar. I don't know. I really don't know. But 3 days ago, Natalie came to my apartment crying. She said Richard had been asking questions about her schedule, checking her phone when she was in the shower, following up on receipts and credit card charges. My stomach dropped. He's investigating her. Or having her investigated. Natalie thinks he hired someone to watch her, maybe the same kind of private investigator Ashley used. The difference is Richard has resources Ashley never had. Money, connections, influence with people who can make problems disappear quietly. I thought about Ashley driving home alone to her apartment, unaware that she might be walking into something much more dangerous than a simple breakup. We need to warn her. With what proof? That her ex-boyfriend's married girlfriend thinks her surgeon husband might be dangerous? Ashley already thinks I'm a liar trying to manipulate her into keeping quiet. He had a point, but that didn't change the reality of the situation. If Dr. Richard Pierce was willing to destroy a $40 million research contract to protect his marriage and reputation, Ashley Morrison was in serious danger. What about Natalie? Where does she stand in all this? Benjamin's expression darkened. Natalie wants to end things between us and try to save her marriage. She thinks if she confesses to Richard and begs for forgiveness, he might be willing to work through it. She doesn't understand that for him, this isn't about love or marriage, it's about money and power and control. When is she planning to tell him? Tomorrow. Today, I mean. Benjamin glanced at his watch. It's already past 2 a.m. She's supposed to talk to him when he gets home from his shift at the hospital. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, creating a picture that terrified me. Ashley was planning to confront Dr. Pierce about his wife's affair at the same time Natalie was planning to confess. Two different approaches to the same explosive truth, happening simultaneously, with potentially deadly consequences. Benjamin, we need to contact both of them. Tonight. Before either of them makes contact with Dr. Pierce. Ashley won't take my calls. She blocked my number after tonight's confrontation. Then we'll go to her apartment. Benjamin shook his head. Tyler, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you're a security guard, not a police officer. You don't have the authority or the resources to protect Ashley from someone like Richard Pierce. Maybe not, but I have something you don't have: credibility. Ashley trusts me because I helped her tonight. And I have access to all the building's security footage that documents Natalie's visits. That's evidence that could be useful if things go badly. Benjamin considered this for a moment. And what exactly are you proposing we do? First, we call Natalie and tell her not to confess anything to her husband until we can figure out a safer approach. Second, we go to Ashley's apartment and explain the real situation, not just that you were having an affair, but that she might be in danger because of what she knows. And third, I hadn't thought that far ahead, but the answer came to me as I spoke. Third, we document everything. Every conversation, every threat, every suspicious contact. If something happens to Ashley or Natalie, there needs to be a trail of evidence that points to Dr. Pierce. Benjamin pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. Natalie's not answering. Straight to voicemail. A chill ran down my spine. When did you last talk to her? Yesterday evening. She was supposed to text me after her husband left for his overnight shift at the hospital, but I never heard from her. The implications hit both of us at the same time. If Dr. Pierce had discovered his wife's affair before tonight's confrontation in the parking garage, then everything we'd been discussing was already too late. Benjamin, I need you to think carefully. Has Natalie ever mentioned feeling afraid of her husband? Has she ever described him as violent or controlling? She said he could be intense about his work, and that he didn't like it when things didn't go according to his plans. But she never said she was afraid of him. What about financially? Does she have access to her own money, or is she dependent on him? Benjamin's face went pale. Richard controls everything. The house, the cars, her business accounts, it's all in his name or joint accounts where he has to approve major transactions. Natalie always joked that she was a kept woman, but now I'm wondering if it was really a joke. I made a decision that would either save lives or destroy my own. We're going to Dr. Pierce's house. Tonight. Tyler, that's insane. We can't just show up at a stranger's house at 2:30 in the morning. We're not going to knock on the door. We're going to watch and make sure Natalie is safe. If everything looks normal, we leave. If something seems wrong, we call the police. Benjamin stared at me like I'd lost my mind, and maybe I had. 3 days ago, I was a security guard with a simple job and a quiet life. Now I was planning to conduct surveillance on a heart surgeon who might be capable of murder. What about your job? If building management finds out you abandoned your post to investigate residents' personal lives, you'll be fired immediately. Rodriguez is here doing maintenance. He can cover the security desk for a few hours. And honestly, Benjamin, there are more important things than my job right now. I called Rodriguez on the radio and explained that I needed to investigate a potential security threat offsite. It wasn't entirely a lie. If Dr. Pierce was dangerous, he was definitely a security threat to building residents. Tyler, this is highly irregular. You should call the police or building management before taking any action. Rodriguez, I need you to trust me on this. If I'm wrong, I'll take full responsibility and face whatever consequences come. But if I'm right, we might prevent something terrible from happening. After a long pause, Rodriguez agreed to cover the desk until morning. But Tyler, you call me every hour with updates. And if you're not back by 7 a.m., I'm reporting this to management and the police. Benjamin and I left Meridian Heights in his car, driving through the empty Chicago streets toward Lincoln Park where Natalie Pierce lived with her husband. Neither of us spoke during the 20-minute drive, both lost in our own thoughts about what we might find. Dr. Richard Pierce's house was a massive Victorian mansion on a tree-lined street where every property was worth at least $2 million. The kind of neighborhood where money whispered instead of shouting, where scandals were buried quietly and problems were solved with phone calls rather than confrontations. We parked across the street, hidden in shadows between two streetlights. The Pierce house was dark except for a single light in what appeared to be a second-floor bedroom window. "That's their bedroom," Benjamin said quietly. Natalie showed me pictures when she was talking about redecorating. As we watched, a figure moved past the lit window. Then another figure. Two people in the bedroom, moving around like they were having a conversation. "At least we know she's alive," I whispered. But as we continued watching, something about the figure's movements seemed wrong. One person appeared to be gesturing emphatically while the other remained very still. Too still. Benjamin grabbed my arm. "Tyler, something's not right. Natalie is a very animated person when she talks. She uses her hands constantly. But that figure by the window hasn't moved in 5 minutes." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I need to report a possible domestic violence situation in progress. 1247 Magnolia Street in Lincoln Park. I can see two figures in a bedroom window, and one of them appears to be restraining the other. Are you inside the residence, sir? No, I'm across the street. But I have reason to believe the woman in that house is in immediate danger. Units are being dispatched. Please remain on the line and do not approach the house. As we waited for the police to arrive, the light in the bedroom window went out. The house became completely dark, and both figures disappeared from view. "Oh God," Benjamin whispered. "We're too late." But I wasn't ready to give up. 3 years of watching security monitors had taught me to notice details that others might miss. And I'd noticed something about the Pierce house that might be important. "Benjamin, look at the garage. Do you see what I see?" He followed my gaze to the 3-car garage attached to the house. 2 of the doors were closed, but the third was slightly open just enough to reveal the front bumper of a dark sedan. Dr. Pierce drives a white BMW. Natalie drives the silver BMW we saw in the parking garage. That's a third car. So either they have a third car that Natalie never mentioned or someone else is in that house with them. The sound of sirens approaching cut through the quiet night air. Within minutes, 2 police cars and an ambulance were parked in front of the Pierce mansion, their red and blue lights painting the Victorian facade in alternating colors. What happened next would be burned into my memory forever. The police knocked on the front door, then rang the doorbell repeatedly. When no one answered, they announced their presence loudly and tried the door handle. The door was unlocked. Officers entered the house with weapons drawn, calling out for Dr. Pierce and his wife. The house remained dark and silent for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Then we heard shouting from inside the house. Multiple voices calling for paramedics, for backup, for someone to get the crime scene team here now. Benjamin and I sat in his car, watching our worst fears unfold in real time. When the paramedics emerged from the house 30 minutes later, they were carrying a stretcher with a body bag. A second stretcher followed, this one carrying someone who was alive but unconscious, surrounded by medical equipment and paramedics working frantically. Officer Martinez, the same cop who'd responded to our parking garage incident hours earlier, approached our car. She looked tired and grim, like someone who'd seen too much violence for one night. "Mr. Walsh, Mr. Tyler. I need to ask what you're doing here and how you knew to call 911. I explained about the affair, the threats Benjamin had mentioned, and our concern for Natalie's safety. Officer Martinez listened without interruption, taking notes in a small pad. The woman, Natalie Pierce, is alive but in critical condition. She's been drugged with what appears to be a surgical anesthetic and has signs of physical trauma. She's being transported to Northwestern Memorial." "And Dr. Pierce?" Benjamin asked. "Dr. Richard Pierce is dead. Single gunshot wound to the head, self-inflicted. He left a note confessing to planning his wife's murder and the murder of someone named Ashley Morrison." My blood turned to ice. "Ashley Morrison. Did you say Ashley Morrison?" "Yes." According to the note, Dr. Pierce discovered his wife's affair and hired someone to kill both his wife and her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. The plan was to make it look like a murder-suicide. The ex-girlfriend kills the wife in a jealous rage, then kills herself. But Ashley is still alive, right? You said this was his plan, not something that actually happened. Officer Martinez's expression was grave. "Mr. Tyler, we've been trying to reach Miss Morrison for the past hour. She's not answering her phone, and patrol cars sent to her apartment found signs of forced entry. Her car is in the parking lot, but she's missing." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Ashley Morrison, who had trusted me to keep her safe, who had thanked me for my help just hours earlier, was missing. And Dr. Richard Pierce's suicide note suggested that she was already dead. Officer, we need to find Ashley immediately. If Dr. Pierce hired someone to kill her, that person might not know that Pierce is dead. They might still be following through on the plan. We're treating this as an active kidnapping with possible homicide. Every available unit is searching for Miss Morrison. Officer Martinez closed her notepad. But I need both of you to come to the station for formal statements. You may have information that could help us find her. As we drove to the police station in separate cars, Benjamin with one officer, me with another, I couldn't stop thinking about the moment Ashley had asked me to promise that people would know the truth if anything happened to her. I'd failed to protect her, but I could still keep that promise. And if Ashley Morrison was still alive somewhere in Chicago, I was going to do everything in my power to help find her. The night that had started with a simple camera glitch at 1:12 a.m. had become a race against time to save a woman whose only crime was falling in love with the wrong man and having the courage to seek the truth. But as we pulled into the police station parking lot, I realized that this story was far from over. Dr. Pierce was dead, but the person he'd hired to kill Ashley was still out there. And until we found Ashley Morrison alive or dead, none of us would be safe. The security camera had blipped at 1:12 a.m. and shown me a woman walking into a man's room. But it hadn't shown me the chain of events that would follow, the lives that would be destroyed, or the questions that would haunt me forever. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets aren't the ones people keep, they're the ones that get revealed at exactly the wrong time, to exactly the wrong people, with consequences that no one could have predicted. As I walked into the police station to give my statement, I made a silent promise to Ashley Morrison, wherever she was. I would tell the truth, the whole truth about everything I'd seen and everything I knew. Because in the end, the truth was all I had left to offer, and it might be the only thing that could save her life. The camera had captured a moment of betrayal at 1:12 a.m., but it would take everything I had learned about loyalty, courage, and the price of keeping secrets to write the final chapter of this story. And I wasn't sure any of us were ready for how it would end.